So hello everyone and welcome back to webinar 4 of 6 in the Demystifying IRTs admissions process series. Today we are here to talk about the components of one's academic background, which if you remember from the first webinar in this series, academic background is one of the evaluation categories we use that we evaluate our applicants across. For the record, my name is Brittany Zorn. I am the Arts and Sciences Program Specialist here with IRT, also a proud IRT alumna from the summer workshop class of 2013. And I'm going on my 6th year in this role. And I'm here with my fabulous colleague, Leslie.
I'm Leslie Godo Solo. I'm the Education Program Specialist. I am going into my 20th year with IRT, and I'm IRT alum, class of 91. And it's a pleasure to see you all, and thanks for joining us again today.
Cheers on that note. Here is an overview of our presentation for today. We're going to talk about the components of the academic background, which are transcripts, GPA, and coursework. We will talk about what the optional statement of grades, what that prompt looks like on the IRT application, and how you might address that. We'll look at the resume versus the CV, pros and cons to both forms, and what IRT expects. We'll have a brief reminder about letters of about recommenders and recommendations for the IRT app, a summary of things you can be working on now, and then our 2 concluding slides about how to submit an application and where to get more info.
So to begin with, there are 3 components that we're looking at when we talk about your academic background, and they are the transcripts, your coursework, and your GPA. And with the transcripts, we can accept and will accept your unofficial transcripts for the IRT application process. For a number of schools in the consortium, when you're accepted to IRT and are actually applying, a lot of your schools will require official transcripts. So you want to make note of that reality, and also set aside the money if your school has a cost for transcripts, because my understanding is that some of them can get pretty steep. But so you want to be able to plan for that. We need to see, and the graduate schools will want to see, transcripts from anywhere where you have earned college credit. So if that's in the study abroad program, if that's summer coursework, if you've taken that coursework at a community college, if you were a high school student and took courses at the community college or at a 4-year institution, you should also include that in the information that you provide to us and to the graduate school program. They'll want to see all of that. In some instances, you may have done a study abroad that shows up on your home institution transcript. If you can get that is fine for us. We'll accept that credit shows up on your transcript. Later on, when you're actually applying to graduate schools, if you can get a transcript of that directly from the institution where you did the course, you should do that, because a lot of the graduate school programs want to see the original transcript. Okay, so I just want to let you all know that ahead of time. And then in terms of the coursework for your chosen field, there are fields where you need to have certain prerequisites. I'll give you an example. If you wanted to pursue a Master's of Arts in Teaching and Secondary History, one of or 3 of the courses that they're going to be looking for when you apply to education programs is History 1, American History 1 and 2, and American Government. If you don't have those courses and you have every other history, they're going to admit you provisionally, or they won't admit you at all, because those are 3 courses that they expect students to have. So that's what we mean by prerequisites. When you're transferring majors, so you start off in one major and now you're moving to another. And so you may not have all of the coursework that you need. So what you would want to do is, you could do a number of things. You could let them know that I'm going to be taking X, Y, and Z course over the summer to make up for this. If you've already graduated, then it may be a situation where if you can enroll in some of those courses in between the time that you would actually attend the school and get that coursework out of the way, you could let them know that. Of course, you can have courses from a community college. Oh, and then failing an important class. Let's say that you have failed a class in your major. You want to let them know why that was the case. So if there were extenuating circumstances, you want to write about that. If you're going to retake the course the next semester, you can let them know I'll be retaking this course. The other thing that I would check is when at your institution is when you retake a course, does that course replace the original grade? Or do they average the grades? I went to Cleveland State and they averaged the grades. They did not take the D or F off your transcript. So you want to find that out too from your institution. Now, and I say this because I actually had a situation as an undergraduate. I got the chicken pox and I was in this Spanish linguistics class and I got sick like at the beginning of the semester and I missed so much. The teacher, I think, did give me an F. But when I went back to talk to her, I was able to do something that's called a petition. And what I was doing was petitioning to have that grade removed because she remembered that I was sick and was willing to take that grade off so that I could retake the course with her. And then I was able to get a B. And that was all that showed up on my transcript. Yep. And then finally, the 3.0 GPA is what we're looking for undergraduate students, a 3.5 for students who may already have a master's degree. And then if there are some extenuating circumstances, maybe you have a 2.9 as an undergraduate, or maybe you have a 3.3, you can always do a statement of grades and let us know what were the extenuating circumstances that happened. I would also say that if there were no extenuating circumstances and you were kind of figuring it out the first couple of years, or you changed majors, and you do not have the 3.0 or the 3.5, don't let that alone be a reason for you not to apply to IRT, okay? Because we'll evaluate your academic record, all of this, and then make a decision about whether or not we feel that we could get you into a school or not. And usually, we believe that we can help you get into a number of institutions. So don't sell yourself short.
Yes. So to piggyback off what Leslie was just saying, the IRT is very gracious with, our admission requirements. And we believe that like every single one who applies to our program is probably capable of being successful in a graduate program. It's just a matter of how you package yourself and if you have the right tools to prepare for that experience. So this language is taken directly from our application. It is an optional statement of grades. To Leslie's point, if you want to explain why your GPA does not quite meet our minimums, or if you want to explain a low grade on a transcript, this is your opportunity to do so. This is the exact prompt. If you wish to explain a low grade or an incomplete on your transcript, or wish to provide an explanation for a GPA that does not meet our minimum GPA requirement, please write a brief explanation below. And then a reminder about what our requirements are. What we basically are looking for in a statement of grades is an unapologetic description of the circumstances that led to the low course grade or the low GPA. So we're not looking for a list of excuses or we're not looking for the student to like apologize for like, oh, I'm so sorry, it was just all of these things were going on and I couldn't meet the minimums. No, just state what happened rather plainly, right? Like, I got sick. I'm a first generation student at a large 4-year institution. My freshman year, I did not understand how to be successful, or, it took me 2 semesters to understand that there were resources on campus that I could access, or, this particular professor and I did not get along and had a really difficult time communicating. And so even though I went to office hours, I wasn't able to like get the grade I was trying to get. So whatever happened, whatever the circumstances is, just explain it like in simple, clear, straightforward language. And then the important piece is explain like what happened after that changed. Like, okay, so I got this low grade, but then going forward, you can see that I never had another F on my transcript, or you can see there wasn't, after my freshman year, my grades continued to improve, something like that. So you want to talk about the circumstances that led to the underperformance in whatever context. And then you want to show that there was growth, or that there was a learning moment, or that there was like a turning point after that, that there was not just a repeated pattern, over and over again. Although life happens, and like sometimes you get hit multiple times, and maybe there are, multiple semesters or courses or multiple instances where a grade was lower than you wanted it to be. Again, explain it unapologetically. We don't need a whole lot of descriptive language about, how you felt or why it didn't work out. Just offer some really straightforward, simple reasonings for this is what happened and this is why the result is what it was. Here's what I did to correct it, and make sure that didn't happen again going forward. And this is good practice for graduate school. So if you are writing this for IRT, consider it a dry run for a similar sort of statement of grades that you might submit for your graduate school applications if you have a lower GPA or a low grade on your transcript.
Okay. So the resume versus the CV. Okay. In the case of a resume, you don't want that to be any more than 2 pages. It should highlight your most recent and relevant professional experience as it relates to the field that you may be applying to and or the job that you're looking at. It should list your educational background. It should highlight relevant skills. School. Okay. And this is used if you're applying to a program, a graduate program that has an applied or practical emphasis. So teaching, counseling, student affairs, situations. For the curriculum vitae, this can be multiple pages. There are no maximums. If you look up some of your professors, you may find that they have 10, 12, 20 pages worth of information. But this is a more detailed description and details the whole course of your career. So from beginning to end. And it will include the educational background, academic achievements, awards, your volunteer experience, any research you've conducted, publications that you may have written in, conferences, presentations, all of those kinds of things. And this is appropriate for applications in academia. So if you're thinking you're going to become like a professor, typically professors will have a curriculum vitae.
The only thing I would add about the resume CV question is that IRT only is expecting 1 document from you. So it's not both, right? Like we don't want a resume and a CV. If you're applying to an education field or a master's in education, especially, most often a resume is going to be the appropriate choice. If you're applying to an arts and sciences or humanities field, and or a PhD, most often a CV is going to be the most appropriate choice. If you're entering a PhD and you don't already have a robust amount of research experience, then you might still use a resume format because the CV is like intended to highlight academic and scholarly work, and maybe you don't have a whole bunch of that yet. That could be appropriate. I think plenty of IRT scholars have something of a hybrid where they're taking elements from a traditional CV and taking elements from a traditional resume and kind of using both of them to like fully capture and articulate their previous experience. So that's totally appropriate. What matters is, one document that is highlighting the most relevant skills and experience that you have to the degree that you're seeking, or in this case, to IRT. Okay, so thank you for letting me add that on to your description there, Leslie. Here we have just a reminder about recommendations. I know we just saw y'all 2 days ago and did this webinar. So just to reiterate, IRT requires 3 recommenders. We use a specific form. We don't accept generic letters of recommendation. So make sure to preface that with the folks who you ask to write on your behalf. 2 of your recommenders should be academic and from professors with whom you've studied. 1 should be professional. And if you're looking for more context on that, review Tuesday's webinar, which is already posted to YouTube. You can search IRT and the title of this webinar series, and it should come up for you, no problem. Make sure to provide your current, most up-to-date resume or CV, your transcripts, and a small blurb about the IRT to recommenders. So these are my goals and interests. This is what how IRT can help me achieve them. And this is why I want to be a part of the program. Give them an earlier deadline than March 1st if you can, and you can check the status of your recommendation submissions on the applicant profile page of the IRT application.
So what can you be working on, right now? Of course, you're starting to fill out the application, but additionally, as you think over the next year of applying to graduate school, do you need to strengthen your GPA, for example? And if you already have your GPA where you want it, you want to continue to maintain that, right? Identify any potential gaps in required coursework. So if the field you're looking for requires an undergraduate degree in that particular field, do you have an undergraduate degree? Is there coursework that you could pick up over the next year that will put you in the ideal position to be able to pursue this degree? Okay, so let's say, for example, you're thinking about sociology, but you only have 1 or 2 courses in sociology. You need to pick up as much sociology as you can in between now and actually going to graduate school as you can, because sociology, to go into a master's or a PhD in sociology, you must have an undergraduate degree in sociology, because you're going to be competing with other folks that have an undergraduate in sociology. So if you're in a field where that's the situation, then you want to, as I said, get as much coursework as you possibly can, and or, change your minor to a major and pick up the coursework. Begin also to draft an optional statement of grades if that is going to be applicable to you. And consider, in regards to the resume and the CV, consider which style best represents your relevant experience, and what you would like to demonstrate to the graduate school about your research experience, your work experience, teaching experience. Which of those is going to be the best route to go and sell you at the highest level? And then also identify potential gaps in relevant work and or research experience. So if you haven't had a lot of research experience and you're looking to go into a master's or a PhD that is predominantly research oriented, can you get some additional research experience prior to entering that program? The same thing with work or teaching experience. Do you have enough teaching experience? If you have 1 teaching experience and they're looking for more, can you maneuver and get some additional teaching experience before you actually go into that program. And let me say this too, feel free to reach out to Brittany and I on particular majors. If you are not sure about that, because it's so nuanced in certain fields, and you may not have any idea, and we can help you sort through that. So really, don't hesitate. If you have any reason to be concerned at this point about whether or not the coursework that you have will line up with the degree that you want to do, reach out to us. We can help you sort through that.
Yes, I started talking and I was muted. I put Leslie and I's email in the chat just as a quick reference. Our contact info is also available on the website. So do feel free to always, reach out with any questions about your candidacy if you have them. You've seen this slide before. If you've attended one of our previous 3 webinars, this is how to submit an application. You must attend an info session, which this year they were all done virtually. A full recording of one of our virtual sessions is available on the website. You turn in your completed application online, which this is the website to the link to our website is what I'm trying to say. To submit your application, we need a resume, CV, all of your unofficial transcripts, responses to the short essay questions, of course, the actual application itself, and then 3 recommendations. And then once you submit a completed application by March 1st, you will be invited to participate in a 30-minute Zoom interview or virtual interview in the month of March. And this is also a slide you've seen before. It's where to get more info from us and how to contact us. If you have questions, visit our website, reach out to the office at our generic email or Leslie and I. And you can call the office now because we are half in and half out. So that is our presentation for today. It was a short one, not a whole lot to say about academic background, since it's often hard to change one's academic background in terms of GPA and transcripts and the like. I do see we already have a question in the chat, so this is great. We'll start here, and anyone else who has questions, feel free to start sending them. So the question for the recording is, I have a resume, but I'm applying to PhD programs. Are there any, recommendations for sources to help in creating a CV? Should I perfect the CV for IRT application or in preparation for graduate programs? I think Leslie would agree with me that IRT is pretty flexible. So we're not going to overly scrutinize your resume or CV, and the deciding factor of admitting someone is not like, oh, well, this should have been a CV and it's clearly a resume, so denied. That is just not the case. That is not what the IRT would do in terms of determining, is this the appropriate document? So yeah, feel free to Google some resources about CVs. There is a great, I do have one recommendation that I can probably quickly look up and give you in the chat.
And one is one.
CV. We actually have this linked on our Canvas course for our current students because it's from a consortium school, and this is a good place to start. So UC Davis has a whole page about, format and content, the difference between resumes and CVs. And since UC Davis is a consortium institution that partners with IRT, it's a good trusted source as a starting point.
I'm also sending one from Wisconsin. They are also, University of Wisconsin-Madison is also in our consortium. So those are good places, so do a Google search, and or your career service office, if you're still on campus. That's another great place to go. They can help you with the difference between a CV and a resume. They can also critique it for you. Yep. And they're working with students who are getting positions and so forth. So they'll be able to help you with strong action verbs. And, if you have a couple of sections that you only have one thing under, they can help you consolidate those, give it a title that consolidates it all so that you put those separate three different areas where you only have one item. They may be able to help you come up with terminology that would bring those three into one. Do you all understand what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah, you're talking about structure
Yep.
and formatting.
Okay, yes.
Perfect. We got some yeses.
Your headers, that's what they call it. Your headers, like your education, your research experience. Yes.
And the only other thing I'd say into response of your last question is you do not, to the question of should you perfect the CV before your IRT application or in prep for grad school, we're obviously going to help you like fine tune a resume or a CV once you're admitted. And your CV is going to be a living document that you're constantly revising and constantly updating for the rest of your career. So you can just get used to having lots of different input about like do's and don'ts for a resume or a CV. Like everyone's got an opinion about like what it should or shouldn't look like and how it should or shouldn't be structured and how long it should or shouldn't be. And so for the rest of your career, you're going to be receiving advice on this and be updating it. So it'll never be perfect. You're welcome. Okay. Other questions, thoughts, reactions, reflections, ruminations, qualms, queries, inquiries, quizzes?
This is just, hi, a clarification question. You said that people get emailed or called for an interview in March. Is that everybody, or is that just the people that are selected for the program and then there's an interview? I just wanted to make sure I got the right info.
Yeah.
Everybody who has a completed application will be interviewed by someone in the IRT office. It could be me, it could be Brittany, it could be our executive director, LaShonda, or our two additional colleagues, Sarah and Janelle. But we're going to interview, it's a 30-minute interview, and that is part of the application process.
Yep. So everyone who applies gets interviewed. And if you remember from our first webinar in this series, the evaluation criteria that we use to evaluate our applicants there are 5 categories. We just talked about academic background. There's also your fit with IRT mission, your recommendations, your essays, and then the last component is the interview. So when we're evaluating applicants, the interview is 1/5 of the criteria we use before making an offer of admission.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Cheers.
and we'll do that, by Zoom or WhatsApp or, any of those platforms.
I know you all are experts now because you've been with us for 4 webinars, but are there other questions or thoughts that folks have? Oh, sure, go for it. Is it Marlene?
Yes, it's Marlene in Spanish. So I understand that the program pairs with well, like I can't say the word, but like with the partners, with the institutions.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if you're like tailoring your application to like one of those schools, or if you could just apply to like any school, like any program that you see fit for yourself.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very good question. So we do have a consortium, which is a hard word. You're not the only one who struggles every year, so no worries there at all. Your IRT application should be to your field broadly. So you don't necessarily want to tailor your IRT application to like a particular institution in our consortium. And then even once you're admitted to the IRT, we do have expectations around how many consortium schools you apply to, but we don't limit you on applying outside of the consortium. So you're welcome to apply to as many non-consortium schools as you could afford, like maybe you don't necessarily, what am I trying to say? IRT cannot offer fee waivers to non-consortium schools. So if you've budgeted for additional application fees, or if you get fee waivers from some other program or affiliation that you have, and you're like planning on applying even internationally, like to, European institutions or Canadian institutions, totally appropriate. People apply outside of the consortium every year. And okay, good. No follow-up. Great. That seems like we answered that sufficiently. I see we have another hand. So Daniel. Oh, you're muted, sir.
Classic. I was in a previous meeting, so I couldn't make it to the beginning of this session. But I remember last year, I would get the Dropbox for the recording sessions. Is that still being done, or are these sessions being uploaded elsewhere?
Yeah, it's a great question. So they are being uploaded to YouTube this year, and they're also going to be linked to our application website, or the IRT website, where you get the information about the application. So you can go to YouTube now and already find the previous 3 recordings for these sessions. You could literally just Google like the title, like IRT Demystifying Admissions, and they should come up first thing for you. And then in a week or so, all of the links will also be available from the IRT website.
Daniel, I'm not sure when you came on, but in the chat, we put some links for places to look for information regarding CV and resumes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cheers. Yeah. Other thoughts or questions? I'm realizing that the general info session should also get uploaded to YouTube, so that will happen as well. The generic required informational session that is already available on IRT's website will also make that recording available on YouTube for the sake of having everything in the same place. Oh, sure, I can do that. I can do that for you, Tatiana, and team audience. What am I trying to say? YouTube and IRT. That's the one. Oh, don't play though. I don't need to hear the whole thing. I just need. I think this is the generic link to just like the channel, the IRT admissions channel. There isn't a whole lot there. It's just literally the 3 webinars that we've already done.
Yeah, as I'm looking at those are much longer though. The first one was 58 minutes, the second one an hour, and then the third one was an hour and a half. Just so you know, you have some sense of how long they are. Doesn't mean you have to listen to the entire thing. You can move it. You all know that. You can move it and listen to the parts that you want to hear again. But yes, they're there for in perpetuity.
I mean, we could delete them eventually. They might not be there forever. But the whole world can see it. Yep. YouTube is nice because it has the closed captioning feature. So that's part of like the switch away from Dropbox, which like sending a MP4 file with Dropbox is great. There isn't necessarily.
Sorry, I was pulling it up and looking.
I was like, is someone talking? Do we have a question?
I opened it up.
But yeah, so that's part of the value to having it on YouTube, is that there's the closed captioning feature. Thanks, Jennifer. Good questions though. Other thoughts, reactions, questions. Like I said, at this point, I feel like y'all are experts and you're gonna walk on through to the program. Walk on in.
I had a question about recommendations. I know it says that you could have 2 academic ones and one from a professional experience that you had. So I just graduated college last year, and I'm not gonna say that I haven't had a lot of work experience. I have, but the field that I want to go into, I want to get my master's in educational policy. So I don't know, like, if it would be better to get 3 academic, or if I should get 2 academic and then 1 professional. I'm working at a school right now, but I'm also working at a school abroad. So I'm just thinking if I should, like, what should I do in that perspective? Like, I have like options, so it's not really an issue. And I have worked at a school in the States, but I wasn't necessarily, like, I wasn't teaching, like, because I was, like in my second year in college. So I was like working in the office and stuff, like, so it wasn't really like a teaching thing. So I don't know what you would recommend for me to do.
Sure.
So I'm thinking maybe you go with the 3 professors. If you have 3 professors with whom you've taken courses, and just have them write for you. Depending on what you're doing in this job abroad, if that's more policy oriented, then you might have that person write the 3rd letter of recommendation.
Yeah, I think the default for graduate school is going to be for academic recommendations. Like the default expectation is that you have letters of recommendation written by professors. So you can never go wrong by having 3 professors write you letters or serve as recommenders. That's like always a good bet. The 1 professional is sort of like, it's acceptable to have 1 recommendation from a professional if you're pursuing a very practical vocational field, something like student services or MATs, or something where it's like very student centered and not as research or like academically driven. So yeah, when in doubt, 3 professors is great, totally appropriate. You would go for professors who you've taken more classes with, done more work with, have a better understanding of your goals, for future graduate work, and can articulate your scholarly abilities. That would be like the default high-end preference.
Thank you, because I'm currently a teacher. I'm actually in Spain, and I also thought about that because the people that I work with do not speak English. So I would have to basically, I don't know, I would have to pay, I'm assuming, to like get it translated officially, because I speak Spanish, so I could, just quick little Google Docs, but I'm pretty sure I would have to have it like audited or something, like stamped, and so I would have to pay for that. So I was just thinking about, what would be better, and I do think my professors would be a better option, but I just wanted to make sure I just asked.
Yeah,
Totally. Never hurts to ask. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I agree.
It sounds like the professors would be less of a hassle for you, and feel free to go that route.
Definitely. Yeah, save some stress and money. Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a good one. I see Daniel has his hand raised again. What can we do for you?
Yeah,
Here we go.
a question in regards to recommendations. So I guess any advice or tips? So the work that I've been doing for the past few years revolves around equity and access to students of color. Mm-hmm. And I have really great supervisors and I'm more so speaking on behalf of the IRT application. Like they can speak on behalf of that understanding of that equity lens. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of thinking of reaching out to my previous supervisor and my current supervisor, and then connecting with a professor that I've done research with. Would that be acceptable, or is it you the IRT would prefer those academics over the professional.
Remind us your field that you're pursuing
So education policy.
at the master's level?
Yes.
Or-
Yep.
Okay, yep, okay. That's a good question. I think IRT would accept 2 letters from a supervisor or letters from supervisors who could speak especially to your work with students of color, or your ability to serve a diverse BIPOC student population. Yes, I think IRT would accept that. For graduate school, we would be maybe a little more discerning. You might work with your IRT advisor to really talk about like the length of your relationship with these people, the scope of the work that they can speak to. And I guess we're going to see what these letters are like. So we would be able to tell you like, nah, this letter wasn't quite up to snuff. Like it was positive, but it just didn't hit the expectations of like what a graduate program is looking for. So yeah, I think for IRT purposes, and Leslie, let me know if you're aligned, since we are 75% of the admissions committee. And we decide what's acceptable.
I agree. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers. Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. Any other lingering thoughts or questions? I am. Perfect. Yeah, you're welcome. The next webinar in this series is about interviews, if I remember correctly. And then the final one is just a recap of everything that we've talked about. So a final opportunity for y'all to pick our brains about the application before submitting. So next Tuesday, we'll talk about the interview and how to nail that. And then next Thursday, we'll just summarize all of the tidbits that we've shared over these 6 webinars.
Yeah. The next Tuesday one is at 12 noon and the Thursday one at 3 again.
Eastern time.
Perfect. All right, lovely people.
Yeah, we don't need to hold you any longer than is necessary. So you know how to reach us if things come up. Looking forward to seeing your smiling faces once more, and have a great rest of your week/weekend. Cheers. Stay
Bye,
warm.
all. Take care.